Good morning. Just getting started. Sorry I'm running late today. Welcome in. How's everyone today? What's going on? Happy Tuesday. Happy holidays. Hope everyone's having a good holiday season so far and that you're all ready for Christmas. That's the joke, right? Nobody's ever ready. Never seems to be ready on time. I'm not ready. So if you're not ready either, you're in good company. Welcome in Style Plus. Thanks for joining. And we've got five of other people here incognito. Welcome in. At least it's not showing me who's here. All right. So, how's everyone's holiday season going? Lots of up and downs. Any donkeys or Grinches? Well, I'm not selling anything today, so I'm just doing a seller chat. I mean, there's some stuff in my buy it now, but I don't have any donkeys or Grinches. Although there's probably some Grinches in my house, like people that are Grinchy. How about you? Are you Grinchy or are you a donkey? Which one? P. Zenberg. Welcome in, Tanto. So my name is Dana, aka Draz. I do this walk and talk seller chat every Tuesday and Thursday mornings. I'm on my treadmill walking. You're seeing my dashboard, and I just come in and share thoughts, and people are allowed to ask questions for help selling on Whatnot. So if you have questions about selling, about how to navigate the app, about things that are happening, ask away. I will try to answer as best I can or guide you to where you can get information. If you look at my show notes, I have a bunch of information in the show notes. And if you scroll down through those, the most important ones are those starred bullets that are there, that are the official sources for where you should go to get help if you have questions or need a tutorial or some training about how to use the app. Make sure you take a screenshot of those 5 starred bullets that are there in the show notes. Welcome in, Christina, Side Hustlin', and Gina. Welcome, welcome. So, we talked last week about goals for next year. And if you want to rewatch that show, it's in my YouTube account. My YouTube address or account is Draz on Whatnot. It is in the show notes with that little talking head. And you can go to my YouTube account, subscribe, and then in the lives, it has past shows, and that one's in there. I have a good one about shipping if you need help with shipping. Good morning, Story of Home. How are you today? So pretty. Welcome in. And Rainy Day. That's a cute name. Marlene, welcome. Gina is here. All right. So, yeah, if you need help and want to watch some of those past shows, go to my YouTube account and go to the lives, and there's all those recorded. Another really good resource is the Whatnot Seller account, which is an account here on the app. It's the first starred bullet in the show notes. And they have lots of good shows. They interview people. They also do shows that are geared just to new sellers. Good morning, Faye West. How are you today? Kim's Thrifty Finds and Josh Joy. Welcome in. So you can go to that account and bookmark their upcoming shows. And they also are posting those shows, the videos of those shows, on the official Whatnot YouTube account, which is the second star bullet in the show notes. And the official Whatnot YouTube account is Whatnot App, all one word. It's easiest to find that one by typing the ampersand and Whatnot App, because if you just type in Whatnot, there's so much Whatnot content on YouTube that you won't find easily, won't find their account. So type it in with the ampersand, and it's the one with the official Whatnot logo as the logo. So, and then they post the videos from those Whatnot seller interviews and trainings that they do on that account. They usually show up within a week or two after the show. So sometimes they're not there immediately. But for example, there's a couple of really good interviews. I was watching one the other day with where they interviewed Moms and Crumbs. Who was able to catch that interview? So it was a really good interview. Let me pull up the app and show you. So here you can see I'm in YouTube. That's the official Whatnot account right there, Whatnot app. And oh, hang on, it's giving me. All right, just a second. Let me close that. Okay. So if you go into that account, and this interview that they did about a month ago with Moms and Crumbs is posted, and I watched that one the other day, and it was an awesome interview because she talked about her whole story, her whole progress of how she went from literally just trying to figure out what to do so she could stay home with her kids after a huge flop of a failure of trying to sell on Amazon in debt to making $3 million this year. So it's an amazing story, inspiring, and you get some nice tips and ideas of maybe things you can do different. So make sure you watch those interviews. And then if you look, there's just all kinds of content on here about seller support. Here's one about attract, engage, repeat, proven Whatnot seller strategies that work. I watched that one too. This was an interview that they did, Kenny did with the Whatnot director of categories and expansion. Her name's Julie. So make sure you watch that one as well. And yeah, really good interview. Gives you a lot of good insight about the things you need to be doing to make the algorithms work in your favor. Hey, Lynn's Vintage Villa, how are you today? So make sure you watch that one. Another really good one is this interview he did with Colleen, who is a product manager. Let me find that one. Let's see. This one right here is a really good interview too. She gives you some insights about how the algorithms work. So things you can do to try to make sure the way you do your shows favors, how the algorithms work. So anyway, lots of good content on there. Instead of, doing a big watch of all of the episodes of some show you're binging, go binge on this account and watch all those videos with your business to help you grow on Whatnot. So I had a thought the other day, and this is honestly true. A lot of what about Whatnot that can make it so that the difference between you know, being successful or not is honestly just how often you can go live as far as how much and how fast you want to grow. If you're on there a lot, and I know not everybody can be on there a lot, but if you just go live a lot, you're going to grow a lot faster. You're going to get, because you just get so much exposure by being on there, either, every day or for longer hours or whatever it is you can do. You can build up a following and, get more sales eventually if you just go live and stay on longer. And I mean, obviously, there's other factors. Because just going live, if you're just sitting there deadpan for hours, that's not going to do anything. So obviously, you have to be interacting and doing things and selling things. But, going live more often and staying on longer will make a huge difference. Huge. So keep that in mind when you're discouraged about how fast you're growing. Well, how many hours are you putting into it? It's kind of the same idea as, if you have a full-time job that requires full-time hours to accomplish what needs to get done in a week, you're expected to work, 30 to 40 hours, right, to get that done. Well, same thing on here. If you want your business to grow and be bigger, you've got to put in the hours to make it work. So just remember that. And, any increase you can put into how often or how many hours you stream, then it's going to make it so much faster that you grow your business on Whatnot. So, just my 2 cents about that. And I've seen that proof of that in my own endeavors. If I want to grow, if you want to get more followers, you've just got to be on live longer or more often. All right. What questions does anyone have? Comments? Please read the show notes. And if you have anything you want to talk about, just put a question mark so I can see it light up in bold. Did everyone set some goals for next year? What do you have in mind for next year? What things do you want to achieve? Write them down, set achievable goals for everything. So, not just a long-term goal, but also have your long-term goal, but then have your monthly, weekly, daily goals that you work towards so that you have opportunities to feel that you're achieving something and that you can see those marks and then stretch a little and go even further or do even better. And we talked a lot about that in that show last week, about the most successful people just in life in general are people who are good at setting goals, even if it's not, sometimes it's not necessarily, that they sit there and write down and plan and do all that stuff, but they have it in their head. Here's what I'm going to do, if that works for them. Not everybody can keep track of all the details. It's good to write it down. I like to write it down. Good morning, what goes around? How are you today, Joan? So, write it down. Or if you're one of those people that can keep it all in your head and, still have good success in reaching your goals, remembering what you were trying to achieve, and keeping a tick list of the things you need to do, make it happen, great. If not, write it down. And I still think it's better to write it down. Once you write, they've proven that people are more committed to and remember better things that you write down because you visually saw yourself writing it. Your hand wrote it down. You looked at it, so it just engages more of your senses into the whole process of, I'm going to do this. This is something that's important to me. Writing it down. I do have a Facebook page under Draz on Whatnot. I don't really do a lot of interacting with people on Facebook. I'm more, I don't have like a Facebook page that's like a group for my Whatnot buddies. I partly just because I have so many Facebook groups and pages for other things that it's kind of overwhelming, but I've thought about doing it. I just don't know how many people want to join 500 Facebook groups that are dedicated to different Whatnot sellers. I don't know. What do you guys think? I probably should have done it a long time ago, but at the time I was managing a family group, a church group, and then several other um, groups. And I was just like, the thought of one more group kind of made my head hurt. So, hey, Cheryl, how are you today? Hope you're having a good day. Welcome in. Mitchie Taffner, welcome in. So, yeah, but I do have a Facebook page under Draz on Whatnot. And yeah. That Stitch and Witch says, I just started one yesterday, but I completely understand. I don't know how active I'll be. Yeah. Social media, just getting my show scheduled, posting things to social media, and trying to, do that is about as much as I can handle. And my husband is not a social media person at all. If he were more active, I would probably do more because he could do a lot of the content. But he just is not. He doesn't like social media. His Facebook account is one of those that gets hacked all the time because he never uses it. So he'll get a message from friends like, I think your Facebook's been hacked again. And he's like, I don't care. Because he just doesn't use it. So you keep a social media planner. That's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, and you can do things that get posted in, um, multiple pages. But what goes around said, I think you're probably right, especially in our community, because I belong to your page. I'll probably belong to other pages. And everything gets posted in multiple groups. Yeah. I do like the one that someone started that is called Whatnot Made Me Do It, because she's not a seller. And so she created this group, and everybody that just makes stuff can post whatever they made from, and then they can give or not give credit to the seller that they bought it from or whatever. So I like that one because it's kind of like separate from a seller, and then everybody just kind of collectively can post on that site. So if you're a part of the crafting and sewing and fabric and quilting community, you can request to join that one. It's called Whatnot Made Me Do It. And so the idea with that one is just showing off all the things that you make. And so I really like that one. Yeah, so go join that one. Because that one is just laid back. Everybody can post. There's no pressure, because it's not specifically sponsored by a seller. And so I like that one. Hey, Vintage Vicky, how are you today? Welcome in. But I do think social media is super important. It's just, how do you use it to your best advantage without getting overwhelmed? And there are services where you can create posts and, it posts it all for you at different sites. I have mixed feelings about that. I think it's a little bit too spendy, and I don't know that it comes across as authentic, and it kind of is spammy, if that makes sense. Yeah, Merry Christmas to you too. So, I like, to be able to see when people post on social media that it's actually them posting it, it's authentic, it's not just some spammy ad. There's too much of that, if that makes sense. The one that I actually have the best success with is TikTok. And I hate TikTok. I don't go there to just scroll. But I do post social media stuff on there under my account, and it does drive business. So there's a huge quilting and sewing community on TikTok, and they're pretty interactive. And so I feel like it's worth, having a TikTok account and posting on there. And what I post usually is just upcoming shows, content with what fabric I have that I'm going to be selling. So, yeah. But yeah, I'm with you, that stitch in which I just don't love it, but it is an effective way to get the word out. And there's a lot more interaction there than there is on some of the other social media. Instagram is really good too, but it's limited if you didn't already have a big following on Instagram. So, and I don't have a huge following there, so it's kind of limiting, but I don't know, there's something about the way TikTok works that even if you don't have a big following, you can get a lot of interaction and follows and likes, and people will read your posts and so on. So, the beautiful thing about TikTok and Instagram is that your posts stay. They can stay relevant as long as people are liking them and sharing them and everything. Facebook, everything kind of goes away. I mean, it stays there in your history, but it doesn't get shown repeatedly, so Instagram and TikTok are a little bit better about keeping your stuff, more active, if that makes sense. So yeah. And I do multicast, and I think that's important too, if you can multicast onto YouTube and on Facebook if you can. You have to have a certain amount of followers. I think on Facebook it's 50 or more, and then on YouTube you have to have at least wow, now I can't remember. I know I had to build mine up. I think it's 50 on YouTube, maybe that's it, and 100 on Facebook. I don't know. Because you have to have a certain number of follows before it allows you to multicast. But multicasting has helped grow because people just see you go live on YouTube or on Facebook. And I have gotten some people, coming on over to Whatnot from those multicasts. They are a little bit glitchy. There's times where the Facebook multicast does not work. There's times where the YouTube multicast is really delayed or doesn't work. Right now, it seems to be working on both. So, yeah. And I do multicast these shows specifically. That's what my content on YouTube mostly is for the seller chat, so that people who need help and can't always be in my seller chats can go back and watch them if they want to. So, if there's things that we've talked about. So, who here in chat is new to me? Is there anyone here that's never been in my show? Raise your hand or say hello or something if you've never been in one of my shows. So, I have in my auction tab a bunch of documents. So, if you click the shop, And then it defaults to buy it now. Switch it to auction. And there's 18 items in there right now. And these are just all kinds of tips and trick sheets. You can see on your screen me scrolling through those. So those are for just for you for information. And you can just go through those and you just click on the picture and then click it again to make it big. And then you can scroll through if there's multiple pages and you can just screenshot them. So they're just there for you. So all those different topics, those are for you to get, information. And the ones that are marketed, marketed with Whatnot logos and everything, those were created by Whatnot and given to us as the community support team to share. And then the ones that are other stuff are ones that I put together with different lists and just my own input, or a couple of other sellers put them together. Like this chart that is a comparison chart for knowing what kind of boxes or packages you can use with which services. Blaze and Bunny put this together and she said we could use it. I love this chart she put together because a lot of people are really visual learners. So it's nice to have a little visual that you can go, okay, if I have a Ground Advantage label, what kind of packaging can I use? And it shows you on here your own box or your own poly mailer or bubble mailer. You're not going to be able to use a priority mail box or priority flat rate box. So that, it just shows you the different shipping services and what packaging you can use, because it is kind of confusing for people who have not been a reseller before. If you're not familiar with how the postal service works, you need to have some way to figure that out, and that's a good one. So anyway, these are all the things that I've put in there for you guys to just be able to screenshot and get information. Hey, Field Trip Quilting, how are you today? And Trip Mommy and Carol Guy, welcome in. So yeah, if you have questions, put them in the chat with a question mark. What's everybody thinking about for the rest of the year? What are your goals for the rest of the year? What do you want to achieve for the rest of the year? And I know it's holiday season. We're approaching quickly that deadline of if you don't ship it by, and in my opinion, that has already passed. If you haven't already shipped things that people want for Christmas, it's possible they could still get it, but pretty unlikely. So don't promise anything for getting it for Christmas unless they're willing to pay the overnight fee. And even then, I've had customers pay for that and still didn't get it overnight at this time of year. It just doesn't happen. Let's see. Field Trip says I've got 2 shows left for 2025 and I am just hoping to make some room in my studio. Going to try doing a 1 price start show. There you go. Awesome. And I know that thing about needing room in your studio. Lynn's Vintage says, I agree with that about the shipping. I believe yesterday was the deadline for USPS. I think they state on their website the 17th is the last day for priority. And then after that, pretty much anything would have to be, paying way extra for FedEx overnights, or not FedEx, the Federal I don't know, they call it something Express. There we go, Express. The boxes have taken over. Yeah. We were just working in our studio the other day, reorganizing some stuff. And after we were all done, I was like, oh, I mean, it looked nicer, but I didn't really feel like I had more room. So I was kind of like, oh. What goes around? Do you wait until you have a certain amount of people in your show to do dollar starts? Well, there's several different strategies. I mean, there are some people that have done dollar starts from day one, but they were willing to take a loss. It's that mindset of this is a business, and in order to grow it the way I want it to, I, am willing to take a loss up to a certain point, you know but it doesn't have to be that way. You decide what your goals are, and if you want to, if you're the kind of person that's very driven and you want to be a premier seller within 6 months of starting, then that's probably maybe a strategy you would want to try, because it does. I mean, it's been proven that dollar starts, or low starts, definitely are something that will bring more people to the table. But you do have to be willing to take a loss until you build your audience up to a point that you can do those low starts. So you just have to decide, what is going to work for you. And I would say, yeah, you shouldn't be doing dollar starts if you haven't, decided that you are willing or want to take a loss for a while, because when you don't have a big enough audience, there's a certain amount of items that will sell for that low start, because there's just not enough people who want it to bid it up. So you just have to decide what is going to work for you. Okay, so don't get in the mindset of thinking that you have to do, a certain thing. You don't have to do anything. If you have nice items and you're starting at a reasonable price, you'll get sales. It just won't be as fast and as incentivizing as lower starts. But if that's what you can afford to do and you're not worried about the super fast growth, then that's okay. You just have to decide what's going to work for you. But yeah, at a certain point, that is going to bring in a bigger audience, because people are attracted to shows where, there's a lower start, because there's no guarantees on, what it's going to eventually sell for, but it still is more exciting and more fun. And that's part of the whole thing, right? The whole thing is it's an auction style. It's fun. People get wrapped up in the idea of, getting things for a cheaper price if possible, and enjoy bidding against each other. It's a game, you know? So, yeah, it is too much if yeah, it is. It's an emotional, mental thing if you're like, do I start low? Do I not start low? Instead, if you're not worried about being, the number one seller on Whatnot in 6 months, just do what makes sense. Have good merchandise, have a good starting price, and if people want it, they'll buy it, you know? And it only takes two people in your show that both want something for you to get some bids up, you know? So, and if you don't get people bidding up, it's because there's not enough people that want it. So just have a reasonable price that you're willing to set it at. So, yeah, exactly. Because it gets emotionally frustrating for you, because you're like, why am I doing this? That was a lot of work for a little bit of money. So don't do it if, it's going to be too frustrating. Yeah, it does only take two people, but you've got to have the right merchandise, and you don't always know what that right merchandise is. Like yesterday in my show, I had a piece, well, it was actually two pieces of fabric, and they were scrappy pieces that I had set to the side to probably cut up or put in my scrap bags. But it was really pretty fabric. And I was doing my little $2 start thing, and I got to where I was starting to run out of stuff that I wanted to run. And I saw that out of the corner of my eye and I'm like, what the heck? So I pulled those over. It was two with the fabric strips that were about 10 inches wide or less with some scrappy pieces to the side. And I showed them what it was, started it at $2. And that got bid up way more than some of the other stuff I had put out there that was a bigger piece. Why? Because it was a beautiful print and everybody wanted it. And once one person bids, that FOMO kicks in, you know. Oh, that's so pretty. I want that, you know. So then FOMO kicks in. So it's just kind of funny. And you'll be shocked sometimes at what people want and what people don't want. And you just never know who's going to be in your show. So you set your prices at what you're willing, you know, to do. And then what I would do is mix it in. So if your show's going well, then every once in a while, do a dollar start when you get rated or just to have fun. You know, it's going great. Let's do a dollar start. You know, throw them in every once in a while and pick something that you're willing to let go for a dollar. You know, something cute, but something that you've had around for 5 years. Like yesterday, I pulled a piece in that I've had sitting. I've actually had this piece of fabric for probably 2 years. And it was a piece of fabric that was super cute, but for some reason, every time I showed it, nobody wanted it. And so it was kind of I have a joke about the cursed piece. You know, every once in a while you have a piece that you've shown so many times and nobody wants it. And you're like, what is wrong with this piece of fabric? You know, because nobody wants it. So I thought, you know, and it was when I was again looking around the room and I hadn't showed that in months and months and months. So I pulled it over, ran it for $2. It was a full yard of fabric. And it got bid up. It didn't get bid up a ton, but it got bid up and I sold it. And I was like, hallelujah, that's gone. You know, because it was just that cursed piece that no one wanted when I would show it. And someone in the chat actually was like, oh, that's super cute. I want it. And then what happens? FOMO kicks in and she wanted it. So someone else is like, oh, I want it too. So, yeah. So you just have to, you know, you have to be quick on your feet with trying to, you know, read the audience is is a good term. And all that means is that you have a feel for how your audience is that day and what you can do to liven things up or the kind of things people are going to be willing to buy that day, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it was funny because I even laughed. I'm like, this is the cursed piece that no one's wanted for years, you know. And so everyone was like, and it was a really cute piece. It was that you've probably seen it. It's yellow, and then it has gnomes on it that are dressed to look like bumblebees. Has everyone seen that piece? I can't remember. I think it's a fabric cut print. Anyway, it's a super cute print with gnomes on it, and maybe that's why it didn't sell because gnomes were like overdone. Yeah, you saw it yesterday. Yeah, it's a super cute print, but I was just like, I showed it so many times months and months ago, no one wanted it. So it's pretty funny. Um, Let me think. Strategies. So we did a new format yesterday. Here's the other thing that I was thinking about. You need to do things in your shows and constantly be trying new things and different things. And I don't mean like every show is different. I just mean think of ways that you can streamline your selling, get organized, do things a little bit different, have something fun and exciting that you do in your show so that it's always a new kind of a new fun experience for people. Because if you get into a rut, and I had started to feel like I was kind of in a rut, um, then it's probably you probably are. People are looking for the newer, more exciting seller if you've gotten yourself into a kind of routine, you need to mix it up and do things different so that you're kind of attracting some new people, or your oldies are all coming back to see what you're doing new. Can you talk about the buy a box show you did with the craft supplies? Yeah. So when you get a bunch of merchandise that hasn't sold and it's just sitting there and you're like, I need to get this out of here, just take a bunch of flat rate boxes. So large, medium, top, and side load boxes, and fill them. And then decide what price you're willing to let it go at per box. And you can schedule a show that is you make a nice thumbnail and you put a title and make it very clear that it's a box per box show, clear out. And then the way you do your shipping settings, you just create custom shipping profiles that are for a large and the two different medium sized boxes. And that's your only listings in the show. Let me show you what mine look like. So I don't know why that keeps popping up on my iPad. So I'm going to go into my Seller Hub and my shipping settings so I can show you my custom shipping profile. So under shipping profile, so I'm just on Seller Hub, shipping profiles right here. And I'm going to show you on here how I have I called them something very specific, so I would remember which ones I created, and they start with RSS, and that meant my reseller box show. Okay, so I have a custom profile called RSS medium side. So it's a medium side load. And if you look at it, it says 4 pounds, max bundle 1. So I gave it a weight of 4 pounds. Why 4 pounds? Because it's less than 5. So it's not going to roll to the 5 pound and over. And it's a flat rate box, so it doesn't really matter, right? And I put that you can only have one item per box because you're going to sell them a box full. All right, so I created that one, and then there's one that looks exactly the same for a large and one that looks exactly the same for a medium top load. So those 3. Okay, and then you just fill the boxes, and then your shipping settings for that show, you need to go into that specific show and change the shipping settings inside the show. So you open the show on your screen. So for example, if I was going to do a box show in this show right here on my schedule, I would click the show, open it up, edit show, and then you go down to the section for shipping settings, which is right here. Okay, so shipping settings, and then you're going to drop down the menu on that, and you're going to do, oh, whoops, I clicked the wrong thing. Hang on. See more options. Domestic. Okay, so in domestic shipments, you want it set for flat rate on both 1 to 5 and 5 and over, because you're just doing flat rate. Okay, and then you're going to go to the shipping costs and see my normal's default is that $9.21, right? Because I do the reduced shipping. I'm going to turn that to buyer pays all underneath, so that instead of the buyer pays max $9.21, buyer pays all. And then in your notes, in your show notes, And on each listing, you're going to say, this is a show where you will pay $9.21 per box because you have it set at flat rate. If you buy more than one box, you will pay separate shipping per box. So verbally put it in your show notes, make it very clear that you're selling boxes full. And if they want more than one box, they're going to have to pay separate shipping and it will ship separately. That makes sense? So that's how you do the shipping for those kind of shows. And then they pay, per box. And then you put a price that's low enough that, they're going to be willing, considering what's in the box, to pay whatever it is for the whole box plus the shipping, and hopefully it gets bid up. But your purpose in this show is to clear it out, right? So have a good, that was the bit you didn't understand, buyer pays all. Yeah, you've got to set it for buyer pays all. If you don't, it's going to actually charge you for their second box, the shipping, if they buy more than one box. So make sure you turn that to buyer pays all. And use those custom profiles so that it's one item per box so that it doesn't bundle them. Because you don't want it to be bundled. And then just have a price, okay, so, and you can have multiple prices if you want to. It makes it easier, in my opinion, if you just have a set price used for all of them. But, if you have some boxes that you feel like are more valuable, then when you start that box, just start it at the price and you maybe write it on the box. And then when you start it, just start it for that higher price. Just say, okay, the boxes that have fabric in them that are nicer brands, I'm going to do at this price per box. These other ones that are maybe like solids or not as nice a brands, I'm going to do at 10 or whatever starting bid. So you decide and then price it out and have them ready. The last time I did that show, I think we did 20 boxes. So I didn't do a ton, but it sure helps you clear out a bunch of stuff. People get a really good deal and it's a win-win. So, yeah. What goes around says, I was in a show yesterday and the shipping was set to buyer pays all, and some people stopped bidding. Yeah, if you're doing a regular style show, it is definitely best to offer reduced shipping. But in a show like that where you're selling per box, you can't afford to do that. And they know they're getting a bargain by getting a whole box full of stuff. So they're willing to pay the shipping separately. That's the mindset. But yeah, in a regular style show, you definitely want to offer the reduced shipping if at all possible. All right, let me make sure I didn't miss any. Okay, where is my screen like this? 1 second. My screen's doing something funny. Huh. That little arrow thing has disappeared for me to be able to see questions. I don't know why. I can get it on this one. Okay, let's see. Do you make as many listings as you have boxes in? Well, like I said, I just had the 3 listings. So I had one that was a large, medium, and side load. And I actually put a picture of the box. Let me see if I can show you what I did with that. I just put a picture of the box. Let me go to my inventory and I can show you. So the listing itself was just a picture of a large flat rate box. And then I had as many, I just put like 100 because I use them over and over. So I just used, so like large, flat. So here's what my listing looked like. So it's just a picture of the large flat rate box. So I just swiped that off the internet. And then it just is a description that says large flat rate priority box full as shown. And I put how many number and tell them don't pre-bid, because I mean they can pre-bid if you've started to show it, but you don't want people pre-bidding on those because you're showing it. So I took the box full of stuff, and then I had an empty box of the same size sitting next to it, and I would show the box as I transferred the items from one full box to the empty box the same size, because it's not a mystery. You're doing it as, you're buying this full box of stuff that I'm showing you. If you did mystery, you have to do it that other way, and it won't work with this type of show because you're not putting the same items in every box. So if you read the way mystery sets or surprise sets work, it wouldn't work with this type of show. So you're actually showing them what's in the box as they bid. And so I started the bidding at like a minute and 30 seconds, I think, or maybe longer, while I show the items as I transfer them from one box to the other. And then they bid during that time if they want to bid on it. So yeah, that's how you do it. So yeah, that's how I did my listing, and I just have multiple units of each size. So there's a listing just like that for all 3 size boxes. So yeah. So hopefully that answers that. I'm hoping that will go away. Welcome in, Andy. How are you today? All right, let's talk about yeah, and I think honestly the end of the year is a good time to have that kind of show. I would do it after Christmas though. Kind of, maybe even do it like on unboxing day or something. On wait, what's it called? It's not unboxing day, it's boxing day. There we go. Because that's kind of the idea. Yeah, that would be a fun boxing day show because that's kind of the theme, right? I'm selling full boxes. Get yourself some boxes of stuff you want and get rid of the stuff you have at your house you don't want. So, yeah, that would be a cute idea. So, I might even do that if I feel like I have enough stuff to do another show like that. Because what I start doing, honestly, here, I'll give you a tip. So I put flat rate boxes together in my garage. And then as we find stuff that hasn't sold, and we can kind of put it together in groupings, because I do think it's important that the boxes have similar items. Because if it's too mixed up, people won't necessarily want to buy it because maybe they like, this type of item, but they don't want a whole box full of mixed stuff. So try to keep them, similar items. So like if you have a box full of fabric, don't have it mixed types of fabric because a quilter's going to want quilting cottons. People who make clothing want apparel or apparel fabric. See what I'm saying? So make sure it's not mixed up enough that people aren't going to want to buy it. So I did themed boxes. So like I had a box that had all kinds of wood crafting stuff. I had a box that was full of rubber stamps. I had a box that was full of the upholstery fabric samples. I had a box that was full of junk journaling and crafting type stuff, stickers and embellishments and tools that crafters would use. So you have to kind of keep them themed because if it's too much of a jumble, they probably won't sell or they won't sell for much. So try and make them so that they're kind of the same type of stuff so that one person is going to want the whole box. So So yeah, like maybe you have a bunch of yarn and you can fill a full large flat rate box full of yarn, and someone who crochets or knits is going to be happy to get that box. And if you get a couple people in your show that want yarn, it will get bid up. So yeah, there you go. Welcome, welcome. All right. Let's talk about next year. So one of the things that Whatnot is going to start putting a lot more emphasis on, and they already have started and build up, is trust and safety. And I know it's been frustrating for all of us this year because they had such exponential growth so fast that trust and safety issues became a problem. We had a lot of scammy sellers. We had a lot of when you start, when you've arrived, when the scammers have arrived, let's put it that way, right? And the scammers have arrived in force and have been doing crap like opening accounts and going in and live shows and telling people that their account is in jeopardy and you need to click this link and blah blah blah, and people were freaking out. And the scammers are in force. They're aware of it, but it was hard for them to keep up with it. They've hired more people, they're hiring more people, they're spending more money putting in place trust and safety teams to make sure that when something gets reported, they can get to it quickly and get it stopped, and on and on and on. So that's something to watch for next year, is that definitely will be more in place, which will help us as sellers to make sure that people can trust the app, because there are some definite issues with trust when people were buying from scammy sellers who weren't shipping their merchandise, or who were shipping them crap or different items than they actually bought, or on and on and on. And so then people are like, have a bad experience and don't want to come back, which is bad for all of us. So, that is definitely important. And they're going to put a lot of work, money, and emphasis on making sure the app has a good reputation and that trust and safety is an important thing. So, watch for that to even increase more. I don't know that they're going to necessarily start. I haven't heard that they're going to start screening sellers more than because when I first joined Whatnot, you had to prove your inventory, prove that you've sold online, and you had to go through training and et cetera, et cetera. And right now, it's like open season. Pretty much anyone and their dog can apply to sell, and you'll get approved. And so people can just go on and sell. I'm not sure exactly the reasoning behind that, other than, wanting the growth and needing the growth, but it makes for a lot of those problems. I don't know if they're going to start ratcheting that down again. I wouldn't be surprised. So if that does get more, ratcheted back down a little bit, and they screen sellers better, so that we don't get a lot of the scammers. And it's kind of funny. Some of these scammers crack me up. The stuff they try. There was someone that came on recently, and they had an item, and they were trying to sell by doing it on flash sale for the minimum amount you could make it, which would probably be like somewhere around 10 cents or something. And because it was like $1 item, 90% off or something like that. And they were trying to sell 1,000 of them in so that they could hit their 1,000. And someone in chat was like, well, you do realize that you have to ship something before you get instant payout, right? Because even if they had sold 1,000 in that show, you still have to ship something and have it show that it delivered. Because I think they thought that they were going to be able to sell 1,000 and then get instant payout after they sold their 1,000. And when someone started saying, people were reporting it because it obviously was a scam. But um, yeah, when people started saying that in chat, they pretty much shut it down pretty quickly after that. And it was just like, oh my gosh, people read the notes, this is not going to work. Go away. So yeah, it was funny. But I feel bad because people were buying it. And so what a headache, that Whatnot's going to have to go through and, undo all those 10-cent orders of the people who were also dumb enough to buy it, right? So it's like, brother, and I'm guessing that they probably weren't even legitimate sales. They probably just had the same person on the other end buying all the 10 cents because you're only having to do, 1,000. You're only having to invest $100 to try and buy those 1,000 items. So was that what it was? The same person buying them? Yeah. I mean, hilarious. Whatever. And I guess maybe they were going to try and go through and ship, do the labels on it or something. But anyway, the things people will try. And I'm always like, what a pain in the butt to have gone through all that effort, go live, go through all that. You could have just done a legitimate show. And probably, yeah, it wouldn't have been as fast, but, just do things the right way, the normal way, and you've put in the same amount of work and you're legitimate and you're actually building something that will last instead of something that's scammy and going to get shut down. Fourth house says, yeah, there was like a constant 13, 14 people in the room. They probably had several accounts showing people in the room. Yeah, exactly. So it was just a total, they could have put that much brain power into just setting up something legitimate instead of all that brain power and manipulating it to try to figure out how to do that. Like, seriously? Anyway, so yeah, that's how we know we've arrived. The scammers have arrived as well. So we have to all be vigilant in reporting and, blocking and doing all the things you need to do to keep the scammers from being successful. And everybody knows, right, that Whatnot does not come into your shows and put messages in chat telling you that something's wrong. They will come in if there's a trust and safety emergency. They might come in and just shut your show down, but they aren't going to start putting messages like click this link if blah 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 blah. And they don't send you messages about your business in your regular email account here on Whatnot. They will send it to your personal email and they will put it in the customer service and customer support sections of your messaging if you are in the customer support program where you do your own customer service. So, and that is going to be mandatory soon, I think. Do all of you now have? I've been on it for so long, I don't even know how they're rolling it out, but they did it initially like a year and a half ago, I think, when I joined, and where I handle my own customer service. So if you handle your own customer service when someone has an issue, instead of Whatnot just handling it from the get-go, they message you with the person's request or issue, and you get to accept, decline, whatever. So yeah. Bill Tripp says, I got a few from Stripe in the beginning that were scammy, but those have stopped. Okay, good. Yeah. So they only officially communicate with you through your personal email that you have on here as your contact and through the messaging system under those other categories. So if you go into your messages, so your message inbox has all messages, customer support, and whatnot support. And so it would only be under those other categories. They're not going to send you messages. And they've even put that little thing on there that says, Whatnot will not be sending you messages in here. So, yeah, pay attention to that because the scammers will always try to do their best to make you, think that something's going on that you need to click on. So be aware of that. All right. Does anyone have anything they're concerned about, want to talk about? I will caution you, there are a lot of Facebook groups that are Whatnot related. So you can join groups that are Whatnot sellers. I'm part of one of them, and I had been part of another one previously. I'm thinking about unjoining the second one just because there's so much negativity in there. And I like to be part of just because I like to kind of get the vibe, but at the same time, it's depressing because you go in there and everybody's just super negative. Not everybody, but most people. And I mean, that tends to kind of be the thing. People gripe when they're unhappy and don't necessarily share as much of the good news. So I'm cautioning you just to say, if you want to be part of one of those, just recognize there's going to be a lot of Debbie Downers in there telling you how Whatnot's horrible and this happened and that happened and blah, 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 blah. So, if you're in one of those groups, it can kind of be, you're going to see a lot of the down stuff. So maybe don't join those. Be happily ignorant and blissfully happy with how you're doing things and what you're doing instead of listening to everybody else's sob stories. The only reason I like to be in there is just because I'm part of community support and I kind of like to see, the things that people are chatting about, talking about, get a vibe. But like I said, there's so much negativity that sometimes I think, ugh, never mind. And I don't want to be on it. And I've already disjoined or unjoined one of them. Probably going to do it soon on the other one. Call me ignorant, but I just rather, be kind of experiencing this on my own terms. If that makes sense. So annoying. The one I'm in just talks about their own shipments not coming in. Oh, yeah. It's like, okay, that's nice. So yeah, the one that I'm in right now, it's mostly people talking about all the scammers and how they got scammed and stuff like that. Yeah, so it's kind of depressing. And that's not the bigger picture, because this is limited to however many people are in that group. But it kind of makes it seem like when you go through there that it's like, oh, it's all so bad. No, this is a couple of hundred or thousand people, their experience. And like I said, it tends to be when people are upset, disappointed, that's what gets posted, not the positive things. So, yeah, so be careful about those kind of groups. Has everybody read the Whatnot blog? So in my show notes, the Whatnot blog is the last starred bullet in there. Please go to the blog and read the articles on the Whatnot blog. That's where they post stuff that's more like it's geared towards just the general public, kind of like what's going on whatnot to the general public. And you learn a lot of things that you don't necessarily hear as much on the app about the financials, about the investments, about the stats. And so there's a lot of good articles on there. Make sure you go to the Whatnot blog because you are an integral part as a seller of the success of the app. And you need to be on top of how it's doing collectively. If that makes sense. So that you can have a feel for, am I part of something doing great things and growing and doing good or not? And you are. So go to the Whatnot blog, read the articles there. Lots of good content, lots of good information about trends and categories and things that they've added. They always put on there some of the updates to the app, stuff like that. So it's definitely worth reading. So again, it's the last start bullet in the show notes. And the blog is blog.teamwhatnot.com. And lots of good articles there to read about what's going on at Whatnot as a company. Another thing I need to mention, and I keep forgetting to put this in chat, so I'm going to take a note. There is officially now a place where you can go to sign up to host or to see which places are hosting Whatnot gatherings for sellers. So it is a website, or like a clearinghouse website, where you can go and people can go to sign up to host a seller event, or you'll see the ones that have already been planned and be able to do that. I need to put it in the show notes. So I'm going to remind myself to do that, and I'll have it in there on Thursday. So it'll be a link address that you'll be able to use to go find that website where they've put it. And that way, if there's an event close to you that you could attend, you'll be aware of it. Or if you are in a position where you feel like it would be fun, or you would like to host an event in your local area, you can apply through that website to do that. They won't necessarily approve your request. I think they're looking for areas where there's enough sellers to justify having an event. So if you're in a rural area, that you may not obviously get approved for that. Or, maybe you would want to have it in a location close to you that's a bigger city or something like that. But you can definitely, see the ones that are in the areas where you live. Maybe you live, a couple hours outside of a big city, they're having one. You're welcome to then try to attend those events. So, yeah, and they're a lot of fun. We did a local meetup in Utah in February of this year, so earlier this year, and it was a lot of fun. So we had about 25 people that came, and Whatnot paid for the meal and sent us a little bit of swag to hand out. And, we just got to know people and made some connections with other sellers in the state. And I'll probably do another one maybe sometime later next year in Utah. Because I think Utah has a lot more sellers now than it did when I had it. So it'll be fun to do that. And I know there's a couple coming up I think there's at least one coming up in Las Vegas area and some other ones in bigger cities. And they just recently had one in Florida. I can't remember what city, but anyway, So that's something I'll post that in the show notes for next show on Thursday so that everybody can go to that. It's something they just recently put together and released about 2 weeks ago, and I keep forgetting to put it in there. Fay West is sponsoring one in Oklahoma in January. Awesome. What city is that one going to be in? Oklahoma City. So that will be fun. I'm excited for you. Grand Lake. Grand Lake. So very cool. And about how many people are you anticipating at that one, Faye? And are you co-hosting it or are you hosting it? How did they arrange it for you? Because I remember you talking about wanting to do one, so I was excited that you got it in the works. So yeah, if you're thinking about wanting to do something like that, so it's just there's a website now where you can apply to host a Whatnot Seller event get together. And you can also see events that are in the works or planned that other people are hosting. And so I'm going to post that in the show notes on Thursday so that everyone knows how to get there. So, yeah. So I'll get the address, the link, and put it in the show notes on Thursday. Because it is officially out there for everybody to use. Another thing, I've mentioned this before, another thing coming down the pike is AI generated listings. I'm already beta testing it. They haven't officially, announced to the general public when it's going to come, but they're beta testing it. And my experience when they first started the beta test, it was kind of clunky, but it's getting much better as I'm using it, and it's huge time saver. That's what I will say. It's a huge time saver. Oh, so Disabled Vet, you're providing location, Disabled Vet's co-hosting. Everyone will bring extra persons, so about 50 total. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, Disabled Vet is an awesome seller. A lot of fun. So that'll be a fun event. Very cool. So, yeah, Disabled Vet, howdy. That's exciting. I'm excited for you. It'll be a lot of fun. It's just really fun, honestly, to get together with other sellers because, this is kind of a weird thing we do. I talk to people in my community, my family, my church group, and people just look at me like, that's so weird. What you do is weird, right? They don't understand it. And so it's nice to get together with other sellers who do what you do, and you can talk and change ideas and share ideas and give each other tips about resources and sourcing. And it's just awesome to get together with people who are doing the same thing that you do. So, yeah, we were at a little church party the other day, and the people that we were sitting with were asking us about what we do. And they're just people that live in our neighborhood that we go to church with. And, they just have these weird looks on their faces like, oh, 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 And then one of the ladies actually quilts. And she's like, so I could come to your house and you can sell me some fabric? I'm like, sure. And she's like, oh. So it's just funny. But it's good to talk about it. That's an important thing. Always talk about what you do with people because you'll be amazed that you can find some sources to be able to source inventory just because you were willing to talk about it with everybody. So always share what you do, even if you are like, people think it's weird. People think I'm weird. People think I'm just this weird hoarder that has a house full of crap. No, I actually make a living doing this. Yes. And that was one of the things I was telling people. I'm like, haven't you walked past my house when my garage is open and gone, what the heck? Because I have a garage full of stuff, right? And people are like, what do you do? So, yeah. But it's always important to talk about it because then people can, actually help you source or provide some inventory or share what you do with people who might be trying to get rid of some stuff that you can then pick up. So always share what you do. What's that Whatnot blog address? It's in the show notes. So click the show notes. It's the very last starred bullet. And it is blog.teamwhatnot.com. So blog, the word blog, then teamwhatnot.com. Oh, you don't see the show notes on your screen? Here, I'll hold this up, take a screenshot of that. So it's that last starred bullet. And sorry, I'm walking, so it's kind of jiggly. But you should be able to, here, I'll step on the rail for a second. Hold still. So that's it right there. So yeah. Awesome. So yeah, anyway, just always talk about what you do, share, share details, tell people I live stream. If you want to join, here's, and share your link. You can get credit for them joining and maybe they'll buy something and you'll get some credit money for it. So always share. Let's see. Field Trip is saying, I was thinking of doing a private show with local pickup for my crafting group so they can see it's not weird. Hey, I think that's a great idea. Because they will have to sign up, but then they can just see what it is you do in a safe environment where they're not having to bid against the general public, right? You can sell them a few things if they want to, and they can just pick it up. I love that idea. I think that's a fabulous idea. So, yeah, if you have any kind of, quilting groups or crafting groups or, or even just, friends who do some similar stuff to what you do, do a private show and invite them and then get them to sign up and through your link and have a little fun party online. Love that idea. We do swaps, but all of us are broke. Well, so you could do a private show like that and just run things for $1. And if it's all local pickup, then it's kind of the same difference as just swapping things, right? But then they could do that. And you could even maybe have people contribute inventory. So you're the clearinghouse. So everyone doesn't have, everyone bring the stuff you're trying to get rid of to my house. And we'll do this private show and I'll just run everything for $1. Everyone has local pickup turned on. And then, but it's a kind of a fun little way to have a get together online and show what you do. I like that idea. So that's cute. And then that way everybody, gets what they want and they didn't have to, do like a big swap meet or whatever. So that would be kind of fun. Welcome in, Willisandra. Thanks for joining. All right, looks like we're waiting. If anyone has any specific questions they have or things you want to talk about, mention now. I think we'll go find somebody to raid. And I'll have that link for the meetup, local meetup thing in my show notes on Thursday. Oh, you're in Minnesota. Yeah, in the winter, it's hard for people to get out. Yeah, for sure. All right, let me go see who we can raid into. See who's live. in crafting or sewing or some other fun category. I've been trying to find other sellers on doing seller chats, but rarely. Red Rooster's on in Canada, but lately all they've been talking about is shipping because they're still on having postal strikes and problems. So it's a mess over there. So be glad you're not trying to sell out of Canada because it's a fat mess. All right, let's go right into let's just go right into Philly Flipper. He's a lot of fun, and he's doing a storage unit show. You are so welcome, Lynn's Vintage. Have a great week. All right, here we go. Running over to Philly Flipper. Have a great day, everyone. Make it a great day.